You can use persuasion science ethically and unethically. You can use it to manipulate pressure, twist arms, and you can use it in an ethical way.
The term ethical persuasion has been completely misused and misappropriated by many internet marketers who are anything but ethical.
3 questions are, first of all, am I telling the truth? What I'm presenting naturally there in the situation, would they be happy about it? And if the answer is no, then chances are what you're proposing is not ethical either.
With me today is Patrick van der Burgt from Ethical Persuasion Training and Consulting. And Patrick, I'm going to take you to the most critical question right now, immediately. How can you tell the difference between ethical persuasion, attraction, or just good old-fashioned pressure marketing?
That has to come from what the intention behind it is. And it is true that you can use persuasion science ethically and unethically. You can use it to manipulate pressure, twist arms, and you can use it in an ethical way.
So I actually have been standing on a soapbox about this many times. And I think that the term ethical persuasion has been completely misused and misappropriated by many internet marketers who are anything but ethical. So it's almost become a code word to hide unethical behavior behind the term ethical. So how do we figure this out?
We use 3 simple questions. It's not foolproof, but it's a nice filter to get an understanding of what we're thinking of implementing. 3 questions are, first of all, am I telling the truth? If you're lying about something, then the chances are that that's not ethical. Then second question is what I'm presenting naturally there in the situation? Not imported, not exaggerated, not counterfeited in any way. And so a good example here is, and I hate to pick on the same industry the whole time, but mattress stores, right? You see those big mattress stores on the side of the roads, right? And you pass there and you're in the market for a mattress all of a sudden. And all of a sudden you start noticing these stores. And oh my goodness, a 50% off sale. Ooh, right? So you run in, bargain to be had, and you might purchase a mattress and you leave the store, you're quite happy. And then 2 weeks later, the sale is gone. And then 2 weeks later, the sale's back on. And then now you start paying attention, and there seems to be this 6-week cycle that they have a 50% off sale. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't feel so good about your purchase that you made. You don't feel so good about the person you spoke to. You don't feel so good about the store anymore, and you certainly wouldn't recommend anybody to go there. Now, if you had, let's say, a mattress line that you were no longer going to restock, or there were materials that were needed to manufacture these mattresses and that was not available anymore, those are all genuine reasons why you say, hey, listen, we're clearing this out, there's going to be a sale. But just to reproduce a sale for the sake of it, that's not going to work so well. And so if you're a business operator, you don't want to put yourself in that position where, if we understand the science of persuasion, there's so much you can do to be much more successful from an ethical perspective. But if we just circle back to those 3 questions, the first one was, am I telling the truth? Second one was, is what I'm presenting naturally there in the situation? And the third one is it wise? If I present this to my partner, as in the other party in this negotiation, in this deal, our client, if I present this offer and they said yes, would they be happy about it? Would they come back to me in the future to do this again? And if the answer is no, then chances are what you're proposing is not ethical either. And so if that's the case, then it might be that you're on a bit of a slippery slope, something risky that could backfire on you and damage your reputation. So yeah, we want to be definitely careful.
So who's teaching this? So, I mean, it's got to come from somewhere. Somebody doesn't wake up one day and go, I'm going to be a shyster and make up stuff. Where do we learn this? Where do we learn it so that it goes wrong?
I guess maybe people pay attention to what other companies are doing, and that's how things, sort of propagate and get continued in other industries. So that would have something to do with it, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that this has a lot to do with how some of these concepts, once they've been hacked by people, are being misused by people? Because Cialdini is an icon, but I have seen people do all kinds of things with his work.
Yeah, you can use this ethically or unethically. And so that's up to the individual. But yeah, research shows it's bad practice. If you apply it in an ethical way, you safeguard your reputation and you often get wonderful results. If you like, I can explain a little bit about the elements within persuasion, or we can talk about how we recognize bad behavior in other people.
What should we do instead?
Okay. I think it would be wise for us to maybe touch on how people make decisions. Would that be a good place to go?
100%. Let's follow the path.
Okay. So I'm going to lean on the work of a Professor Daniel Kahneman, who won a Nobel Prize in economics in 2002. He died last year in 2024. He was a professor in psychology and a behavioral scientist. And he won the Nobel Prize basically for demonstrating that against what was the popular belief of old economics, that people use logic and reason to formulate their decisions. And Daniel Kahneman proved that was not the case. And he explained it in a way, he said, when it comes to decision making, your brain, your audience's brain has two parts. There's system 1 and system 2. System 1 is an unconscious or subconscious fast brain that works all the time, basically. It's always listening in the background. And we use that for everyday decisions. It can drive a car on an empty road. You know, sometimes you come home and you can't remember what turnoff you took from the freeway. That's because you weren't driving. System 1 was. Now, System 1 uses shortcuts as well. So rules of thumb that we've learned often give us the right decision. An example could be expensive equals good. So if I'm in a store and I need to buy something that I don't really know anything about, I could delay my decision. I could leave the store, but most of us don't have the time for that. We're very overloaded. So the shortcut, expensive equals good, allows me a path to a quicker decision. In that moment, I could go, well, you know what? I was thinking about spending this much. If I just spend a bit more, chances are I'll get something that's better quality, better suited to purpose, lasts me longer. And you know what? That's exactly what will happen. You will probably be right. Because most of the time when you spend more money on something, you get something that's better suited to quality, lasts you longer. Inevitably, it doesn't work all the time. And so that's why we do say that System 1 is error prone. Sometimes things that are more expensive are not always better. So sometimes it backfires, but most of the time it works for us. And so the shortcut allows us to make a quicker decision in the moment. Right? Other shortcuts are, for example, if a lot of other people are doing it, it must be the right thing to do. Right? I was on a train station in Germany a while ago. I'm Dutch myself, and I was force-fed German in school. So I know what they're saying. And so I'm standing on the train station, and there's all these tourists around. You could recognize them because they're the ones with the big suitcases. And there's, of course, all these locals, and there's all these announcements going on over the speaker. And I can sort of tell what they're on about. So some of the tourists, how do you know what they're saying? 10, 15 minutes has passed, and all of a sudden an announcement comes up, and nearly everyone on that station starts walking to one end of the platform. Now, do you think that all the tourists that wouldn't have a clue what was said on the announcement, that they stayed put? No, they started walking with the crowd, right? Because there must be value to what other people are doing. So that's another shortcut. So System 1 works on shortcuts, it's subconscious, it's low effort, runs all the time. On the other side, we have System 2. That's our logical, rational brain. Now, System 2 takes a lot of energy to run. It often does not engage. It's happy to take the recommendations from System 1, and Daniel Kahneman refers to System 2 as the lazy controller. You know, it doesn't actually engage unless you force it to. So System 2 is associated with conscious thought. I need to do something in my business. I'm going to, produce a sale. I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to do a sales pitch. I'm going to communicate with people. How am I going to convince them about my offer? Well, when you're doing that, you're consciously thinking. And so you're in System 2 at that time. Now, Daniel Kahneman demonstrates that in 2002, 90% of our decisions are made by system one, the automatic subconscious brain. And later research says that that's now 95%. And so we have less and less time for system two. And that has to do with the fact that system two relies on our attention. We can't do system two functions very well when we don't have the attention, or we've run out of our attention budget for the day. And so this also has to do with our shortening attention span. We used to have an attention span of 20 minutes in the 80s. The attention span of the goldfish, you might have heard those stories, is 9 seconds. Our attention span is now 7 seconds.
Oh,
yeah, it's confronting. We've been beaten by the goldfish.
Holy smokes. Yeah, less than a goldfish.
And the smartphone was sort of the nail in the coffin, as in the final nail in the coffin. We pick that phone up, we unlock it, 36 apps ask us to interact with them. So those are 36 decisions you have to make. Then you might open one, it takes you to one thing, takes you to another thing, a link here, an article there, a message from her, a message from him. And 20 minutes later, you put the phone down and you go, what did I pick that thing up for, right? You didn't even last 7 seconds. 2 seconds, you were already off track. And so we give less and less time for system two because we're running out of attention. Yet when we think how we're going to convince someone, we're using system two.
I'm going to have to make sure that I get this. I think this is really critical. So you're saying there's two ways that people do this. One is to save time and energy. We do what other people are doing. That's classic FOMO. If 1,000 people bought it and they have all kinds of success with it, then probably if I buy it, I'll probably have success with it too. Because I don't have to think, I can just follow what other people are doing. But if I listen to a different argument, if I have to actually think about it, it takes attention away from my prospect or my buyer that they may not have. So the system two, this idea of an actual interaction, only works if both people choose to interact. Is that the right way to see this?
Yeah, mostly right. But it's not so much about them choosing to interact. It's just, do they have the bandwidth to process what it is you're presenting? And, things like, it's good for the environment. It will save you money. It helps future generations. Those are all wonderful, rational reasons. And you could say,
but meaningless to me in this particular moment when I'm trying to make buying decisions.
Well, saving you money sounds like that's important, right? But it doesn't qualify as a shortcut that system one can go, hey, you know what? That's probably good for us. Good enough a decision. And if that's the case, system two goes, all right, right? It doesn't want to engage unless forced to. And so if we keep overloading people with these rational reasons, which are not shortcuts for system one to act on, then we're piling it all up and it goes into the too hard basket. People decide not to just delay their decisions. And then, one of your competitors makes a similar sort of offer, maybe an inferior offer to yours, but they manage to weave in one or two little elements that do qualify as system one information. And now all of a sudden they choose for them and you're standing there puzzled. How can that be? I did so much work and I did all this extra effort and I presented a great proposal to them. Nobody would have done as good as me. And then I went with this other person with an inferior offer. Well, chances are you confused.
What is this magic thing that you're asking me to add that I missed?
Yeah, okay. All right, so Daniel Kahneman says it's system one that runs the show. That's the one that you need to move. So Dr. Cialdini wrote a book, Influence, which is considered by many top CEOs to be the best business book of all time. Like even now, the book's 41 years old this year.
To this day, yes.
Yeah. So it's still turning up on the number one position of timeless reads for business owners and those sorts of lists you see on Forbes and those sorts of places. In that book, he explains to us the 7 universal principles of persuasion. So let's go through the list. So we have reciprocity, which means that the rule of reciprocity is that people have a tendency to want to give back the same type of behavior that's first given to us. Mm-hmm. Right? If I do you a favor, then you owe me a favor. right? When I do a kind gesture to you, then you feel you need to do a kind gesture to me.
And in the book, he cites the example of when they did the candy with the bill at the restaurant, that if they were very generous with the amount of candy they put on the bill for you to take your credit card and pay, that the tip would go up exponentially the more candy there was that they were giving away.
Yeah, because the more I give you, the more you feel it to reciprocate. And I love you bringing up that study. So yeah, in that study, they did a tip, and depending on which country you're in and how much waiting staff is paid, tips are more or less important. But we know, of course, in America they are. So they did an experiment where people got their bill and then they were given a mint, right? And then a certain amount of tips resulted as a consequence of that action. And then they did another group of people. They got 2 mints with their bill, 2 mints for each person on the table. And that more than doubled tips. But then in a third group, and that's where it goes into a different angle, the third group, they were given 1 mint each. Then the waiter turned away and then sort of stopped dead in their tracks, looked around as if to look for the manager, right? And then said, "For you fine people, an extra mint," right? And I got a second mint. Under those circumstances, tips went through the roof. So it wasn't just about how much was given, it was also about how it was given. And what that study highlights is that it's more, and one of the amplifiers is when something is customized and unexpected. That makes that work more. So, all right, so reciprocity. So in business, we've taken that as in, okay, we need to give people stuff, right? Because if I give things away, things come my way. And it's in essence true, but it doesn't turn out to be as simple as that. A lot of business owners do this wrong. They're investing money in what they think will activate reciprocity, and it doesn't. A good example is the free ebook that people might have as a lead generator on their website, right? We have a wonderful ebook. You can have it for free. Just put your name and your email address in. We'll send you the download link. Our gift to you. Nice try. That's not a gift. A gift is something.
And neither is signing up for a newsletter.
No, exactly. Right? So a gift is something that's given without a requirement needing to be met. And so with the downloadable ebook, while it might represent wonderful value, and I'm not saying it's not a good lead generating tactic, but it doesn't activate reciprocity because we feel that we've paid for that ebook. So we have to be careful how we give that. And just in case people are wondering, like, well, how do you use that then? Well, I'm not saying per se don't use the ebook in that format, just don't expect reciprocity to come from it. But what you might offer in addition to that is, I don't know, maybe you're a consultant and you might have a 1-page PDF with, I don't know, if you're preparing your business to sell so that you can exit comfortably, 5 to 10 years from now, these are the 15 things that you should not fail to get organized moving into the future, right? So a valuable list of information, and you make that available as a free download, as in no email required, just right-click and download. Now it's a gift, right? There's no requirement. And funnily enough, you could compare that with the cheese that you get in the supermarket, right? When they come with a tray and there's some samples of cheese or yogurt or a piece of sausage or something, right? You take the cheese, and most people think that doesn't change their behavior. But it does. Research is very clear. You give things away, the average order goes up. And the funny thing is, even if you don't like the cheese, doesn't matter. You buy more of something else because it's not about the cheese. It's about the behavior. I was helpful to you. Now you want to be helpful to me. Anyway, let's move on. So reciprocity we touched on. There's a lot more to reciprocity, but we're trying to keep this short. Liking is that we like to deal with people that we like. Well, it's not rocket science, but what most people would have been taught that, listen, if you're trying to sell somebody something, your services or your product, then you should be likable, right? You should work on it so that people like you when you're selling. Well, that's nice and it's not wrong. But it's more powerful if, let's say, if you're trying to sell me your product or service, it's nice if I like you, But it's more powerful if I got the feeling that you genuinely liked me. Because if you like me, you're going to look after me. Right? Even if I don't quite like you, but I feel you like me, I'm still safe. Right? So we need to genuinely come to appreciate our audience. Unity is about a feeling of community that we feel part of. When we feel that we're part of a we group, we say, people we identify with, that produces a favoritism. Also, co-creation is part of unity. So when we work together with our audience, as in our potential clients, our co-workers, if we work together on something, we get this feeling of unity between us. A cool example is that, let's say you've got 5 employees and you've got 5 tasks that you need doing. Now you could go to each task, each team member individually and give them one task to do. Great, you probably get the work done. But instead, if you got all 5 together and say, hey, team, I've got these 5 things that need doing. Can you guys take care of it? Now they have to co-create together to work, okay, who's going to do what? And can I give you a hand with this, right? Now they're working together and they create unity between them. So they're more loyal. They're going to support each other more. They're going to be less likely to, let's say, leave and go to another company. Social proof is another principle. So I touched on that before. People follow the leads of others, especially when they're numerous, when they're similar to us, and when we are uncertain, right? So those are the sort of caveats.
That almost ties in with what you said earlier about the shortcuts. That to me, in a testimonial, so social proof is a version of shortcut because it shows that this stuff works.
Yeah, exactly. Now, reviews and testimonials are also probably the most falsified piece of information out there, right?
Yeah, just look at Yelp and Google reviews. Like you can tell when somebody's hiring somebody and trying to offset the bad reviews. Yes.
You can pay people to produce that sort of stuff.
Yes.
And so maybe let's dive a little deeper with that in terms of for the reader, right? For the what's most valuable when it comes to reviews? Well, I hate to bring it to everybody, but negative reviews are the ones that are looked at first. Right? We all want to know what's wrong with this company, right? So they get looked at first. But now you could ask the question, well, how do we deal with negative reviews? That's another story. But when it comes to positive reviews, with positive reviews, it is reviews that have more details that are valuable. So when you're out there as a business owner and you're doing this the right way, they want to do this the ethical way, ask people to leave you a review. And it's the best moment to ask is when they thank you for having delivered great service or a great product. Oh, that's wonderful. So glad you like it. Could I ask you a favor? Would you mind leaving a review for us? It's not unethical, I don't think, to ask and to say, would you please, if you could leave a review, that'd be great. But could you put some details in there in terms of what your experience with us was like? And you know what the interesting thing is? What also makes it more valuable, somehow, if the review mentions that happened today. It seems insignificant, right? But if you had a review as in, oh, we had a wonderful meal, and the oregano was great, and the pizza was great, and the beef was great, all these details. If that started off with, today we had dinner at blah, 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 or today I picked up my new from such and such company, that little timestamp somehow makes it more valuable for readers. So also that you could prompt and say, oh, could you write a review for us? And if you could mention that, this happened today, that'd be great. Or, if it's a couple of days late, ask them if you could mention that this happened in, the last few days or this week, right? That would be beneficial. So social proof, it's the opinions of others. It's certainly not just testimonial. Social proof is so wide. If you think testimonials are important for your business, you are missing out on so much other stuff that social proof has to offer you. One easy shortcut I can give your audience is mentioning that something is popular has a big impact on people. So if you have, let's say, 3 products or 5 products you're offering people, and you have one that's the most popular genuinely, and you want that to be more popular, all you have to do is label it as the most popular, and it'll get more popular. Because if other people are liking this, I can't go too far wrong, right? So that's another way of using social proof. Authority, another principle, authority teaches us that we follow the leads of others who have genuinely more knowledge and expertise about a particular topic. And that makes sense as well, right? We can't know everything. So when somebody has more knowledge than us, then it makes sense to follow their advice. Now, all of us are specialists in our own field, I would argue, right? We all know a lot of stuff. But when you meet someone face to face and you go, well, let me tell you the 35 reasons why you should listen to me, and I'm such a clever ass, right? The subconscious goes, you're full of yourself, right? And you're trying to raise your credentials because you want people to respect more what you are saying. But the end result is you lose on authority and you lose on liking. It's lose-lose. So we have to use ways that are socially acceptable to raise our authority. Authority is also about how believable we are. And I'll give you another little nugget for people to use. Often we use numbers in our communication. Let me give you a great example. I do networking meetings, and there was a lady there. She does business services, and her company had helped another business, and they saved them a lot of money. And so she stood up and she did her little presentation, and she said, last month we worked with a company and we managed to save them $300,000. Wow. That's a lot of money, right? But now imagine if she'd stood up and she said, last month we helped a company and we managed to save them $286,942.12.
It sounds more believable because the number is so specific that it almost makes me think, wow, this woman really knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing. She's that accurate in her keeping track of everything.
That's right. And it feels like she took it straight of an Excel spreadsheet, right? Or out of her accounting software.
Yes.
So it has more credibility. And so we're more believable. And what are we all doing in business? Last year, we helped over 1,200 people, right? We all round off. And we're actually doing ourselves a disservice in terms of our credibility. So stop it with the rounding off. Use exact numbers. If you know that you've helped 1,231 clients, then put that on your website. Set yourself or get one of your team members to go back to it every month and update it. Oh, now it's 1,237. Right? Make it accurate, gives more credibility. So that also falls under authority. Then consistency. Principle of consistency teaches that people feel an internal pressure to stay consistent with past actions and statements that they've made. So the common misconception about consistency is that it's about us. In terms of persuasion, it's about the other person. If they have said something or done something in the past, if your proposal is in line with what they've said in the past, that strengthens your position. It's harder to say no. Right? Let's say, somebody's going for a job at a company and they say, we really value hiring people that care about the environment, right? And you can demonstrate that you're part of a walking group and you clean up the beaches twice a year and you make an effort. And so when you raise in the in the interview that I really, I've always liked your company and I'd love to work here because you guys care about the environment and you value people that care about the environment. And that's me because I've done this and this and this and this. Now it becomes harder for them to say no to you because, well, that's what they said in the past, didn't they?
Your living proof of your teaching is you live it. You don't just teach it. You are living proof of what you're teaching is actually working.
Yeah. So we want to create opportunities for our audience to make an active statement earlier on and then align our proposal, which I think is highly ethical, with their values. So that it aligns with them. So we get a more customized approach for them and it aligns with what they said was important. So that's consistency. And then the last one's scarcity, which intuitively we know what it does to us. So people value things more when they are less available or they're rare or they're dwindling in availability. And so that's the old FOMO, the fear of missing out. And so again, a good tip for your audience, when it comes to how we communicate verbally in brochures on our website, Most websites I open or brochures I read, goodness, more than 95% are all talking about what people will stand to gain if they use their product or service. If you get this thing, you'll get there faster. You'll save money. It'll be good for the environment, right? All these things that you will achieve if you go with us. I would call it gain language, where we know that the avoidance of loss hits us more, right? If we point out what they won't be getting if they don't move in our direction, you can be easily twice as motivated. I can give you a quick research example. There was a business that does home assessments for insulation value, as in how well is your home insulated, and what if you insulated your house fully, how much money would you save essentially? And so they did these assessments, and at the end of the assessment, half of the people were told from a gain perspective, right? If you insulate your house fully, you'll be able to save, let's say, $1 a day. Where the other half of people, they were told, if you fail to insulate your house fully, you will lose $1 a day. It's the same dollar, right? 150% more people ended up insulating their house fully under the loss instruction, not the gain instruction.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the psychology behind these slight adjustments that really help us to follow a language, is what I'm hearing, that our customers understand better. So persuasion, what I'm taking away from our conversation as we're wrapping up, is that I really have to understand the psychology behind buying better and decision-making, and then understand how I need to present it to them for them to understand it in the best possible way.
Yeah, we need a systematic approach where we can use our full brain power, our system too, to find and discover the pieces of information that are in the situation genuinely, that allows people to make an easier decision. And then those yes decisions that are in there, they're allowed to come out.
Beautiful. And for somebody who now listened to this and says, well, I cannot do this by myself, I need to have Patrick help me, where would we send them?
Well, my website is a great place to start, ethicalpersuasion.com.au. There's also some free tools that you can get. We have a downloadable ebook, no email required, just right-click and download.
Yay!
Yeah, I know the rules. And there's also a 7-day email challenge you could do. Also excited to announce I've just started my own podcast channel as well, Ethical Persuasion Unlocked. So that's a great way to start. And if you're using some of this stuff and you get some successes with it, I love hearing about it. Find me on social media, leave a little comment, and let me know.
Thank you so much. Well, this was an enlightening conversation today. I mean, I talk about ethical persuasion or the misuse of it all the time. So I think it was great today that we got to get the record straightened, by one of the people who invented the whole thing, as you're deeply attached to it. So thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you very much, B. Thanks for having me.
And that's it for us for today. So if you are having some issues with how to prepare your offer or talk to your potential clients, I think this was a great conversation today to get you insights and how to articulate it. What I'm taking away, as I said, is make sure you understand what they are thinking, because it's always about them and it's never about us. And with that, I say goodbye until next time. That's it for this episode of the Business Growth Architect Show, Founders of the Future. If you're done playing small and ready to build the future on your terms, subscribe, share, and help us reach more trailblazers like you. And if you're serious about creating, growing, and scaling a business that's aligned with who you are, schedule your Uncovery session at uncoverysession.com. Lead with vision. Move with purpose. Create your future.